Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome on another episode of Appetite for Collectibles for my segment called Under the Lens with Richard Stride. How are you
Hello.
today, Richard?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes. All very good here in sunny England. And it's very hot here, ridiculously hot. We've had a heat wave that just never seems to stop. So we're all sweltering, to be honest. But it feels like the background that you have with us at the moment. But
the Geonosis planet.
Exactly. Yeah, it feels a bit like that at the moment. So yes.
Yeah, I live in Florida, so I understand what you're talking about, the heat. It's been dreadful here in Florida.
Yeah, well, we've had the hottest it's the hottest since records began, basically, and it's been it's just relentless. I think it's the last 2.5 weeks now. We've just had endless sun. Everything looks bone dry, and that. So it feels like the Sahara Desert here at the moment. But yeah, apart from that, it's all good.
What part of England are you living in?
So I live near Godalming, which, for anyone that doesn't know where that is, it's South England. And if you've ever seen the movie The Holiday,
yes,
with Cameron Diaz, when she's running through that beautiful snow-scaped countryside and the little village, that's where I live. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Yeah. That little bridge she runs across, I do that every day, you know.
Oh wow. Yeah, I actually really love that movie. When Blockbuster used to be around, towards the end, they were doing these things where they were selling their DVD movies for like $1.99, or they had like a 5 for $25 bin. Yeah. And I stumbled across that film and ended up watching it. And I thought that that's a unique concept of swapping houses with strangers, but it's it could also be a horror movie if you ever decided to take it that route.
You certainly could do. It's quite funny because there's a lot of people book online, to stay at that little cottage. Cameron Diaz, was in. But the joke is they arrive with their packed suitcases and everything else, and we have to tell them it was a set. It was just made of wood. It wasn't real, and they've just been scammed. Basically, it's a cottage that doesn't exist. It's an empty field, so people get very disappointed. And a lot of tourists come to see where the cottage is and what have you. Go, well, that's where it was, in that empty field there, basically. But even the garden was made, everything, basically. So yeah.
Oh wow! So that means that your town gets flooded with a lot of people who think that actual scene is real.
Yes, yeah. The house isn't real. That was a movie set. But the pub and the high street and all of that, and the little bridge she runs across, all of that is real. And the lane that she gets caught in and so forth. It's all real. It's all there. But it's just the house doesn't exist. The lovely, quaint little cottage. So,
that's awesome. I like that. That's cool that, like if you ever, like how you said it, for anybody who doesn't know exactly where you live, this is a good reference to use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So have you grown up there your whole entire life?
No, I actually grew up in a place called Portsmouth, which is right on the south coast. Went to drama school and lived there for many years, about 20 years, I think, in total, and absolutely loved it. And then eventually came to live here in Godalming.
Okay. Have you always wanted to be a part of the fine arts?
Oh God, yeah, since birth. I mean, my mother sort of basically said as soon as I was literally born, I looked towards the light, you know. Found my spotlight, and that was it. No, I've just I wasn't particularly good at anything else, to be honest. I did want to be an astronaut, and I did want to be a shuttle commander for the space shuttle, but I wasn't very good at maths, so that sort of put pay to that, really. So now I go into space for fun, basically.
Motion
Yes.
captioning space.
Motion capture, and fighting aliens and discovering new worlds and all that sort of stuff. So
I think that's a lot cool.
It is, yeah. I mean, you're still on Earth, but you get to run around a spaceship, which is quite good fun.
Well, you kind of achieved the dream a little bit, but just not initially in space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit of magic instead. So yeah, I get this. I get to go there. So yeah, which is great. So yeah.
I'm just gonna address our chat real quick. We've got our friend Vicente. He's saying good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon to everybody else on the other side, across the pond.
Yep.
Star Wars Hunter says, "Hey guys, the Midwest has been in the 100+ all week. Ugh. Math isn't my friend either, so I feel that pain."
Yeah.
So, just lightly brushing into it, when you were in the fine arts, did you want to become an actor? Did you want to do voice acting? What was the initial goal that you wanted to do with fine arts?
I think initially was to be an actor. So I sort of discovered that at school, and then joined a local drama group, as many people do, and then eventually went on to a London drama school and did 3 years training there. And then I was very lucky. I got straight into a film, which was First Night, with Sean Connery and Richard Gere and Julia Ormond.
Great film.
And I was doing mainly sword fighting on that. So at drama school, I trained to do lots of sword fighting, had an amazing teacher, one of the best teachers in the UK. And I was just very lucky. And I just kept working at it. I was terrible at the beginning. I mean, I really didn't think I could do it at all. And I wasn't particularly very well coordinated, because to be a good swords fighter, you basically... this is why girls tend to make better stunt people, is because they study things like dance and things like that, so they've got better coordination. And sword fighting is basically dance, but with long metal sticks, if you like, or lightsabers. It's the same sort of thing. So I just kept working at it all the time, and I'd be on the bus on the way back from drama school, and I'd be doing my movement just with my finger like this, working out the next, the choreography and things. And I just kept going over and over again, and then by the end of the 3 years, I then got a score of 100 out of 100, which was practically unheard of. And then from that, I got picked to then do First Night, and then got into film and TV through that angle more. And then I'd be offered like little speaking roles and little bits and pieces to do while you're there. So it was a great way into the industry in many respects. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned First Night. I haven't seen that movie in such a long time, but it's such a great film. I'm when it comes to movies of that era, I'm very big on cinematography.
Yeah.
How the movies look. And that was a very beautifully filmed film. And Sean Connery was the best. And that must have been did you have any interaction getting to see him or Richard Gere up close?
Yes. So I was on it for quite a while. So I did quite a bit of work with them, which was great. The first time I spoke to Sean Connery was I was in the what was like the canteen area where you get all your food at lunchtime, and I just happened to, I was in the queue just before him, and I said, you don't happen to have like beans on toast, do you? Which is very basic compared to what they normally offer and stuff. Or you couldn't do beans on toast. And they went, oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that'd be great. I said, really fancy beans on toast. And then Sean Connery just looked at me and he went, oh, yes, I'll have beans on toast too. And then, Yeah, I sat opposite him, and we had a chat and so forth. Richard Gere saw a lot, probably a lot more, because he was doing a lot of the fighting in that. So we did. I did some of the archery, some of the sword fighting in the last scene. So yeah, got to run around and do all sorts of things for many weeks, basically. So yeah, it was good fun.
That's awesome. Oh wow. To
Hmm.
think Beans on Toast was your entryway of
Into
having conversations, intimate conversations with Sean Connery.
yeah, as you do.
Which is
I think always people think that they're somehow almost like a god and you can't touch them. And actually, they're very well, just like everybody else. They're very human people, and eventually you sort of get used to. Well, I do tend to get used to sort of big. I don't get starstruck. Get used to sort of big celebrities and so forth. And I think you just sort of you just have to realize they're just a human being, and they probably, there are times when they want to be left alone, and there are times, as we all do, and there are times when they want to chat and talk about non-acting stuff,
yeah.
particularly. Yeah. So
I like that. Yeah, I've had the luxury of interviewing some people, and even outside of like the interviews, we've had like conversations of just stuff that has nothing related
mm,
to them acting, which is nice because, like how you said it, at the end of the day, you guys are human beings. You guys are the same. And sometimes you guys want, like you said it, sometimes you guys want to be left alone. And other
yeah,
times you guys want to just have very simple conversations that has nothing to do with your line of work.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of people in the industry are like that. They like to get to know you, and it's when you're applying for jobs and things. The first thing I always do is don't tell them what you've done, because they can look at your CV for that anyway, or your show reel, and actually tell them something interesting about yourself, something different, that they weren't quite expecting, and what have you. So, there's a couple of little things I'll just drop in there, and they're completely unrelated to acting, and they love that. That's the type of thing that they love to hear about, basically. What makes you interesting as an individual? What's unique about you? you know and they remember you better as well.
Yeah,
So
because you stand out.
you stand out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you've got to have something about you, basically, that you can talk about, and everybody's got a story to tell of some kind or another. So yeah, it's always good.
All right, we got Flex in the building. He's saying good morning, all. Brick Creation says morning. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Vicente said that was a good Sean Connery voice. I was gonna say you sound like a very good voice actor. I feel like you should do that as I don't know if you've done a lot of voice acting, but
I've done
it
I've done a bit, yeah, and I've always, even as a kid, I used to do impressions of people all the time. So I think that was the sort of start of the acting and everything else. And funny enough, when we were on set of Star Wars, again, it always seems to be when you're having lunch. But we were having lunch, and I was chatting, and George Lucas was sat just a bit further down the table, and I started doing all these impressions of Star Wars characters, everything from Alec Guinness to C-3PO to Yoda and everything else. And the next thing I know is can you read in for Yoda? Because normally what would happen, obviously, a lot of it was CGI'd. For Yoda, for instance, but they would often have the puppet from, I think, Empire Strikes Back just sat there, so that the actors had an eye line, so they know to look down as opposed to looking straight at ahead, as it were. And then a crew member would just read the lines, and they would just read it in their own voice. And of course, you didn't get much atmosphere, and crew aren't trained actors and feel a bit self-conscious and all that sort of thing. So I ended up reading in for Yoda and doing the voice and doing a bit of Chewbacca at one point, and doing all sorts of different characters and crazy stuff. So you find yourself being more part of like the family, and you get asked to do things, and I think if you're the type of person that goes, yeah, that's no problem, yeah, I'll do that, I'll give it a go, and if they don't like it, they always tell you and say that's not what they're after, and so forth.
yeah.
But that's the way I find being on set, is just be very helpful. I mean, you're paid to be there, so you might as well. A lot of the time is just sat around doing nothing. And I quite like that, of having something to do or being part of it and everything else. I mean, one time they were short a crew and I was just pressing, I don't know, when you're in a studio, there's a light that goes on outside the studio and basically on all the doors, but there's a button you have to press. And for one afternoon, they asked me, could you press the button every time we go for a take? And I went, yeah, and I got to shout out, quiet, please. Beep. And that was it. And the red light came on. I loved it. It was great, great fun. Better than sitting around just doing nothing. And you get to watch everything. So, that was great. That was the way I felt that was the best way of getting something out of, the day. Because they are long days. They're 12-hour days.
Yeah.
They're not short. Yeah.
I love that you said, if being open to the opportunity and saying, yes, I'll try that. It's true.
Yeah.
It gets you more notice and it gives you more of an opportunity that they'll say like, hey, Richard said he'd be willing to try. Let's go ask Richard, as opposed to like going to ask somebody else.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that you learn. I mean, I always love learning stuff as well. So it's great that you can just, learn something new. And because you never know when someone else is going to say, can you do this? And you go, well, I've done that. So I know a little bit about that. And it was interesting, even just by pressing that button. And because I was listening out more than as an actor, you just basically wait for action. So there's all this dialogue that goes on before every scene, it goes, okay, stand by and roll camera, rolling, sound, speed, mark it, please. Scene 1, take 1, shot 1, and then quiet, please, and action, and so forth. There's all this dialogue and there's all these people shouting out different things for their departments and everything else. And I actually got to learn all that just by pressing that button. And when I came in and said, quiet, please, myself, love that. Right.
I just love that motion.
I know. I felt like I had power, it was like stopping people coming in. And you never know who was on the, on the other side of the door. It might have been Samuel Jackson. And I stopped out Samuel Jackson. Okay. No, mate, you can't come in. So, yeah, we're shooting. I'm important. So, yeah. It's always some of the best times were just doing the silliest jobs, and what have you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that's where it all came from. I mean, it's hilarious because I was there was one point they said, oh, could you be like a droid walking up this staircase? Anakin's going to go running up. It's when he goes to the opera in Revenge of the Sith. And a lot of it's motion capture, and I'm walking up and so forth. And then a mate of mine who was the double for Anakin sent me a message one day and said, oh, God, I can't believe you're D9000 or something. And I went, what? What's that? And he said, when you walked up the staircase, to the opera. And I said, oh, yeah. They said, do you see what they turned you into? And I went, no. And anyway, he sent me a picture. Well, I thought it was a prostitute by the look of it. It was a female droid. Female. I had breasts and everything. Short mini skirt, lipstick. I thought it was bloody brilliant. It was hilarious. And
I'm going to go back and pull that scene.
I went around telling everyone, I was this like female prostitute droid. It was only until I went to a Comic-Con in Holland and someone said, oh, you were D9000 or whatever it was. And I said, oh, yeah, I was a prostitute. And he went, you weren't a prostitute, mate. You were a secretary. I said, that's some saucy secretary. So, yeah, apparently I was a secretary. Going to watch
I'm literally going to go back and look at that scene later on.
Yeah, I'm very small. I mean, I'm very in the distance. But they did, I wish I had some, but some Comic-Con organizers printed out this picture of, I think it's D9000 or D927, I mean, something like that. I don't know. So yeah, it's quite funny, but it's weird when you watch the films, because you forget what you do every day. You know, you don't remember everything, obviously, because you're working on it. I mean, I was on it for years, so you don't remember what you did and then you're looking at this scene and go, oh my God, that's me. I've never realized that before. And yet I've seen the movie like 10 times. And so you're always discovering yourself going, I did that. I remember now, and there's little bits like that, you didn't see. And of course, there's loads of stuff that you did do that ended up on the cutting room floor, never to be seen again. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's because when I doubled for Obi-Wan, there was a scene, and that's the other thing, you don't get the full script, you only get the scenes you're in. So you can sort of, because I was in a lot of scenes, you can pinpoint a little bit of the storyline. But there was a shot where Obi-Wan Kenobi comes running down this staircase, which is quite, it sort of doesn't go straight down, it sort of wiggles around sort of thing. Yeah. And it was just basically a giant green structure, because obviously they superimpose all the other stuff on. And it was an extremely hot day. And I was right at the top of Shepperton Studios, where the big massive lights were, which were very hot. And of course, in the early 2000s, they weren't the LED type lights, so they were like, in furnaces almost. And there I was, sat at this rickety old wooden structure that really moved as you went, and then had to run down these stairs. But I've never, even in deleted scenes, have seen that shot. So it obviously hit the cutting room floor, and that was the end of it, and it never was seen again.
Oh, that's sad.
So yeah, but I don't know where it even comes in the film, but at one point he runs down a staircase. Where he's going, nobody knows. Only George will know. So you can tell. Yeah.
Star Wars Hunter said, I could just imagine Samuel Jackson's response to like you saying you cannot pass.
Yeah. I think it was funny. One of the first days I met Samuel Jackson, I was in the full Obi-Wan gear, and me and Ewan both had the same beard, both had the same hairpiece. So this is episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not particularly well known, but he had a wig and he had a fake beard.
Yeah.
So we would actually wear the same one, and we were identical sizes. Really, really quite identical. And the makeup artist, he's got a mole, but his is a little bit further up. I don't know if you can see, there's a little mole there. His is a bit further up. His nose is slightly different shape, but they, with shading and things like that, just shade it. And they did pluck a few hairs out my eyebrows because mine are bushier. But we looked really identical, and Samuel Jackson came in one day and he started chatting to me, and he was talking away, and I was thinking, God, he's friendly, isn't he? Like we're best buddies sort of thing. And he said, oh, I thought, weren't you supposed to be like in New York? And I said, no. And he said, no, I'm doing this. And he said, he looked at me like that, and he see his clogs going around going, that's not the same accent. And he said, are you Ewan? And I went, no, I'm Richard. And it was like, damn, man, damn. Expletive. That's good. That's really good. Damn. He's like, George, he's good. So, yeah, it was brilliant. I don't know, had about 20-minute conversation with him, and he thought I was Ewan McGregor the whole time.
Oh my God, to be the fly in that room. I would have been laughing my butt off.
Yeah. So yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. And yeah, and it was nice meeting Ewan as well. The only thing that I was very rarely were we in the costume at the same time. That was the only thing. So he was coming on set to see me do the scene sort of thing, and then he would go off and get changed, and then he would do it. And of course we shared the same beard and same wig, so we couldn't necessarily always be in the same together, as it were. But yeah, so that was sort of really cool to meet all the, and Auntie Daniels was just a scream. He really was.
Oh, he is the best. I've seen him so many times at conventions.
Mm.
My fond moment of Anthony Daniels will be that I went to host a panel in New Orleans, I want to say 2 years ago.
Mm.
And I got there the day before to just hang around and take some, some videos and get signatures that I wanted to get before I had to deal with everything on Saturday. And I'm standing in line for the voice actress for Ahsoka Tano, Ashley Eckstein, because a girlfriend of mine has never met her. So we're in line, and I see this gentleman in front of me. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. The gentleman turns around, and it's Anthony Daniels, and we're
Mm.
like, why is he in line? And the voice actress like leans over like this, and she sees him and she starts yelling at him. She's like, Anthony, what are you doing? Get out of the line. And he's like, nope. He's like, I'm just standing here. He's like everyone else. He's like, I'll wait my turn for your autograph. And it was just so funny. And he was like roaming around the convention, just like randomly walking up to people, taking selfies with them or jumping in on their photos. And he wasn't supposed to be there that day, but he got there a day early because of the weather. And he was just hanging around the con, just being very mischievous. But it was the funniest interaction with him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's absolutely delightful. He really is, and he's very welcoming as well. That was, my I think it was my first day, and weirdly, I'm quite a big Star Wars fan, but I mean, I watched the films before doing Star Wars, obviously, loads of times as a kid. I could practically do the entire script, but I was sort of stood next to him and I said, oh, what do you do on this? Not a clue, obviously. And he said, oh, I'm C-3PO. There's that moment I go, oh my God, really? I said, he's one of my favorite characters. And I said, do you do the voice? And he went, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. I was like, oh my, and that was weird that it was coming from a human being that was stood next to me and I was hearing it absolutely live, and that was one of the big and then he was like, do you want to go and see him? And I was like, yeah. So he had them all laid out on a massive table, long table. He was explaining how he ordered it because of when he was in the first one, obviously it was too hot in there and it wasn't particularly comfortable, so he'd played around with it and he had permission to alter the suit so he had to have more movement and be able to do more stuff, basically, and things like see, because he has very little vision. So it's very, very difficult for him, to say the least. He sort of has to be guided around.
I actually own his book, his biography. And the way that he was explaining that in the first film, they had to, so it was connected from the back. You had to, the opening was in the back. So when anybody wanted to like cool him off, they actually had to open the back, fan it, or sometimes they would have to put a straw through one of the pieces of C-3PO's face, so he can drink water. Because they said the original costume was just horrendous. And the scene where he's walking through the desert, they said it was ghastly hot. He was always complaining about how hot he was. Reading that he was able to alter it and make it comfortable for him because he is C-3PO. He's the longest standing character in Star Wars. He's done it and he's been in every movie. So
yes, he has.
So and every Skywalker movie. So just to see him, still at his age, still being able to wear that costume and still be able to move around with it, it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, he's just he's very clever at the movement side of things as well. And he now trains a lot of people who play the droids, and how their movement is, etc. But he had that real sort of English butler type thing about him, and I just think it works so well. Originally he wasn't going to be the voice, but actually they decided that in the end that he was going to be the actual voice for it as well.
He was going to be the whole entire thing.
It's going to be the whole thing.
So
So, yeah.
you said it earlier that you are a big Star Wars fan since you were a kid.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite?
I mean, as a child, I'd obviously the first three. Weirdly, I'd not watched Empire as much as I had the other two, but I think Empire is my favorite. Now, if I'm going to go through all of them now that have been released, I would say that Andor is definitely my favorite.
Yes.
I love the political side of it, and I know that George Lucas is very political in his views and so forth, but he's very astute. He knows, so much about history. He can see, where things are going and how things are, and it's really fantastic to see that mind and that storytelling in an incredible way that is actually not only just a reflection on human society, but almost like a warning to human society,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that the political side of it is very clever, and the whole rise of the emperor and so forth. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it through force. He rises because of the words he says, and the phrases he uses, and etc., and the constant repeating of the same lie over and over again, and the mythicalization and so forth is very, very astute, very astute. And I think he's visually is a fantastic storyteller as well. So yeah, absolutely really good, and obviously the sound and the music, and I mean, what would Star Wars be without John Williams' score? Let's face it.
Yeah.
So he's just a very good storyteller, and that I think is the real essence of Star Wars, is the storytelling, because there was actually a lot. We think of it all battle scenes and everything else, but actually, if you analyze it, they don't actually take up that much time, in the great story of the whole thing, as it were, compared to a lot of modern films, which tends to have battle after battle after battle, and everything else. It's very character driven, it's very story driven, and this whole bigger world, is how it all fits together very well. So, and I think certainly when Disney do it well, and they keep on that sort of political intrigue, that's when they get it good. So the Andor TV series, I think, had some of the best speeches, the best interesting things to say, and it was very, very good, and very clever, I think, as well. But I think when they veered off that's when that's when the problems start, as it were. For them.
I've always, and it sounds like I feel like when I repeat it, I feel like I sound weird by saying it, but I've had people agree with the sentence I'm about to say, but I've always classified Star Wars as being the definition of other people's trauma and how everybody deals with it. Not everybody has a very happy ending in Star Wars, but the ones who do, it's beautifully written, for them to be able to succeed in life. But you see in Star Wars, everybody has a traumatic story, and it's just how they deal with it. And without music in the cinema, you wouldn't be able to feel what somebody's trauma feels like. The same thing with cinematography. You wouldn't be able, without filming the perfect shot, you wouldn't, feel the essence of what that scene is. The speeches, like you said in Andor, between season 1, Cassian Andor's mother's speech about the Empire. My favorite line of that scene is when she says that the Empire is what is it? It feeds and thrives on being negative. Genevieve O'Reilly's speech in season 2. Like I think about it and I get chills on my arm, because it's when you hear powerful speeches like that in cinema, in any movie, you know, it's what makes the film.
Yeah.
It's what brings the character development.
Exactly. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, if you take Hitler as a prime example, you know, one of the worst fascist leaders the world has ever seen, and committed so many atrocities and everything else. But what's interesting is I don't think there's any documentation that Hitler personally ever killed anyone.
No.
I don't
But
think he, as far as we know, he didn't actually ever, but he had something far worse, his voice.
his voice, yes.
His voice. And he was a great player in the clothes that he wore, in the way that he didn't decorate himself, which a lot of business people take on that type of thing, you know, but in a good way. And you know, pretty much ever saw him just in a suit, a plain suit, but then had all his generals massively over decorated, you know, with millions of medals and everything else. And it was trying to him to say, I'm one of the people, you know, I'm for you, I'm for the working man, basically. And you know, he was an incredible orator and speaker, and he would constantly bring up the same thing over and over again. And you know, as Padme says, you know, and the republic ends not with a bang but a thunderous applause. Welcome in these people. We sort of, you know, just allow them to manipulate. And human beings are very, very easy to manipulate, to almost, I suppose, brainwash, you know, in a way, and just make them believe in one particular ideology, or these are the people who are a threat to us, which is a strong narrative that virtually every dictator has. The emperor does it. You know, these are the people that are causing the war. And that's the interesting in the prequels, of course, is that the emperor is actually behind all of that, and he's, you know, deliberately pushing this sort of, if you like, fake news about this evil army that is coming to destroy them, and actually he's the one doing it. So he's creating an enemy that doesn't exist.
It's a master manipulation.
Exactly, yeah. And that's how, and that's interesting, I think, even on a social level, because you would find that even in a home or in a business, you know, people, you know, there are lots of people like that who will try and take control, try and change the narrative and so forth. And you know, I not that long ago did a job as a little part-time job, and it was just interesting. There was one person there that was really very clever and devious at trying to take control, trying to manipulate, spreading this false information all the time and everything else. And you know, it was interesting watching this person work, you know, on a very low level, and just thought, well, that's exactly what dictators do. You know, it's the same sort of thing. So I think it's fascinating, and I think that's what will be studied about Star Wars in the future, is that it's based on human emotion and human responses. So
life always imitates art.
It does. Yeah. And we've, as an artist, when you're writing, because I'm also a writer as well, and write films and TV and stuff. And it's interesting. You quite often start with a story or an idea, which is very relatable. And the one thing, there's one thing of Star Wars that I found really fascinating is, I remember, do you remember the Death Star plans? It was sort of the Poggle hands to Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
I was stood next to Christopher Lee, and we were in between takes, and I said, do you know, this is amazing. I said, you know, it's a plastic sort of circular thing. I said, it's got red light inside. It's got a little thing on the top. You know, it's got bits so you can see the red light inside. And I said, it's amazing, really, because the prop guys have had to design this. They've had to create a mold for it, mold the plastic to create it. I said, you know, how much work has gone into that? And the prop guy was stood next to me, and he was wetting himself laughing. And I said, what's so funny? I said, you've done a really good job on that. I said, what are you laughing at? And he said, we forgot about the Death Star plans yesterday. He said, and we're in a panic going, what do we do? And he said, we nipped into Halford's, a car accessory shop. And he said, and I found a car air freshener. And he said, and basically we took the air freshener bit out, put a red light in, put this little thing on the top, and that's the Death Star plans. So we came to do a rehearsal. And I went up to Christopher Lee, and instead of saying, the Jedi must not find out about our plans for the ultimate weapon or we're doomed, and hand it over very seriously, I just went, there you go, sire, something to freshen the whole galaxy with. That was it. He couldn't keep a straight face all day. But the whole of Star Wars set is full of what I'd call sort of junk. It's
Yeah.
We all use, on the spaceship that was first seen in the very first one, like the blockade runner, I don't know what it's called, Carillion something or other. One of your fans would tell me it's the one Princess Leia's on, and Star Destroyer. In the cockpit, there's these sort of circular things, and they're, don't know quite what they are, but they're there. Well, they turn out to be car hubs. The metal bits that go on the car wheels.
Yeah.
They're just stuck on. They're just spray painted white and just stuck on the side.
Oh my gosh.
And it's all like that.
I remember talking to Roger Christian. He's the one who created the lightsaber.
Yes.
And he was telling us in the original trilogy, he was going out to the cameras. He was going out to the junkyards.
Yeah.
What was that?
The Dooku's one is actually an end of a Hoover pipe, because that's where you get the bend. Yeah, it's the bendy bit in the Hoover. So again, it's quite clever though, because you see all this stuff, and it's like, as a human being, you go, I believe that's real, because you have seen it. You've seen it around, but you're just not computing it and tying the dots, and it's just been slightly changed. Yeah, so it's I forgot what it's called. It's like in the UK we've got a word for it, art junk or something like that, or rubbish art, or no, not rubbish art, junk art, or
junk art.
Yeah, and that's
hilarious.
That's basically all it is. Yeah, so
the Death Star plans is an air freshener.
Air freshener, yeah.
I'm sorry, I could not stop laughing. I was crying.
How nice that Death Star must
have smelled nice.
I think actually what it is, it's not a laser beam that's firing out to destroy a planet. I reckon it's just giving the planet a little bit of extra freshness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, the Empire are the good guys,
They're just giving us fresh air.
Freshness, It's all a bit smelly here. Oh, let's get that Death Star around,
So, knowing that you've done so many things in Star Wars, how was it presented to you to be Poggle the Lesser? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm obsessed with the Geonosis. I wish they would have done like a side story of the Geonosis colony, because they just look like massive. They just look like massive termites.
Do you know, I always thought they looked like cockroaches.
That too. More fancier, more refined cockroaches.
Yeah. I mean, when George showed me a picture of them and said, well, that's what you're going to look like, I was like, oh, okay. And that's why I sort of created this sort of funny walk, which was a bit like a velociraptor, basically, walking around the set. So, yeah, it was, and the voice just... I tried different voices, and I kept going. They kept saying, "Oh, you sound like this character. You sound too much like that character." And Christopher Lee just said, "Oh, just do any shit, and they'll love it." So it was sort of like a cockroach type clicking. So I think that those. I was thinking of there's a tribe in Africa that do the clicking and stuff. Yeah. So that's where you get the like that from, you see. So nonsense. I had a kid come up to me once and go, "I can speak Geonosian," and I went, "I can't." I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
wanted more. I wanted more of a Poggle's story. The fact that he had the plans and was passing them along to Christopher Lee. He had a very pivotal role.
He did. Do you know, it's funny because I actually still don't know what the deal was there. As far as I've worked out is that the Geonosians basically built the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's as far as I know. Because that's the other thing is George Lucas doesn't tell you a lot. In fact, he tells you nothing at all about characterization or anything else. And
I think it's because he wants people to develop the
exactly.
character themselves.
Yeah.
He wants to see, and this is just me guessing. I think George will give you an idea of what the character looks like, and then we'll be like, all right, go ahead, act. So you are getting a visual of what the character looks like, and then like it's how you said it, you were thinking how to walk.
Yeah.
You saw what this character looked like, so you think this character would walk like this. So I think he wants to piggyback off of what the person, of what you would think of. And I like that concept because it's giving the person who's portraying that character to be able to give their own input, as opposed to being told like, no, you're this person, you're doing this, it has to be that way. It's allowing the character to feel free to be able to be creative.
Yeah. And I think actually in some ways, by not know, I mean, sometimes we were on a planet, we would have conversations like, George, are we inside, outside? What kind of planet is this? Where are we? Because we literally wouldn't know, have a clue where we were, because you're on a big blue box. So you wouldn't know what's around me even. And it'd still give you very little information. Oh, it's a planet. Yeah, is it hot, cold? It's quite hot. Okay, right. Okay. Okay, yeah. Getting it. Yeah. What's happening? There's a battle. Right? Not who you're fighting or anything else. But the weird thing is, I suppose we all naturally had this sort of vulnerability about ourselves and this constant alertness of what's going on and what's happening in our acting, because we were like, we don't actually know what's really going on and everything else. In a way, we were acting in the moment more, as opposed to being told everything and then trying to reproduce it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was all free. I mean, you get your blocking and that, but it'd be very little about what's actually happening or going on and stuff. Or where you're walking to even. And sometimes who you're talking to, because they wouldn't actually exist. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Yes. I forgot that was still on. And it's perfectly right, because it's a spam call. We get loads of these over here. I don't know if you get them in the States.
Oh, yeah. We get them here loads in the States.
They never stop, do they?
Nope.
Nope. So, yeah, that's... I'm just going to turn it off. So I suppose it gave us, in some ways, in some respects, a sort of vulnerability and a alertness, seeing what's happening. But it was certainly interesting watching the film and then go, that's where we were. That's what we were doing. Now I get it. Yeah.
How was it like working with Christopher Lee? Because I'm very big into horror movies as well, and I idolize Christopher Lee. I idolize his voice. He must have been astonishing to work with.
He is, and his voice, I mean, his voice is down there most of the time, and you certainly listen as soon as he starts speaking. So he does have an aura about him, and of course he's really tall as well. And I found him just delightful, absolutely delightful. He's very, he was very well educated. He's related to Tolkien. He'd something to do with James Bond. He watched he was the last person. He saw the last beheading execution in France. He was a spy during the Second World War. I mean, he was just a phenomenally clever guy and interesting life, you know. So, you know, he was just fascinating, really. But he had a presence about him. But of course, he did an awful lot of other stuff rather than just the horror. And he was he preferred, I think, to be remembered a little bit more. Not that he was ashamed of the horror stuff, but I think he preferred to be remembered for the other roles that he'd done as well. And this happens a lot with actors. They tend to get remembered for just one part or one particular thing. And of course, they've done this massive breadth of other stuff. And a lot of the stuff the public don't even know about because it might have been theatre and things like that. So, you know, I think, you know, he certainly had a very diverse and very interesting life. So, yeah, he was a cool guy.
And you guys probably did a lot of bantering around on set with each other.
Yeah. No, it was good fun. I think he was just enjoying himself, you know. And I think he actually really liked playing Dooku. And I think it was because of the political side of things, etc.
Yeah.
So he was very interested in that. You know, he wasn't interested in playing just a bad character and so forth. He wanted to have, you know, very rarely are people all bad or all good, as it were. You tend to be a mixture of, you know, we all make mistakes. We all, you know, even if we live a life as a good person, as it were, then, you know, we all make mistakes and we all do things that perhaps might have hurt someone else, etc. So he wanted to see the grey more in people, I think, rather than just the black and the white. So he quite liked those three-dimensional whole characters much more, basically. So yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you prefer better? Do you prefer doing more of the acting or the motion capturing?
Oh, I think the acting more, but motion capture is great fun because you get to really think about your body and how that affects, you know, how that affects your acting as well. So, and also how you communicate storyline through body movement. And learning that technique is really important. And I think it's really good if you can do that in your acting as well. So it's great to go back to motion capture. It's great to go back to mime or those kind of things as an actor. But acting is my number one thing. And then I write as well. I direct as well. So, and stuff. So that's sort of my other job, as it were, in between.
You're a jack of all trades. I said you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I could practically be my own movie, you know. I need to write a one-man movie with just myself. Direct myself, write it, produce it, and
motion capture it.
Motion capture it, and then just lock off the camera and don't even need a crew or cameraman, you know. But yeah. No, I did a TV comedy series and I was directing it, I wrote it, and I was acting in it as well.
Oh wow!
So that was very interesting, and yeah, I learned an enormous amount doing it. And it is possible. It is possible, but you do need a very good supportive cast and crew. So your casting and your employing your crew is the most important thing. Get that right, then everything just falls into place. As it did.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. What's the name of the show that you did?
Cornfield Chronicles. Okay. So I play a love lost farmer who's trying to find love, trying to find escape. He lives in Surrey and he's got this farm that's run down, and basically he is looking after his disabled sister, and he attempts through various ways to find a life for himself, basically, rather than just being a carer. But then he has that difficulty of caring for somebody and then also finding his own pathway. So, but it's comedy. Great fun.
Yeah, you always got to find the joys in that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So did that, and then I've just written a film called Mrs. Alexander to See You, which is actually a true story based on a true story, about my grandmother, who was one of the first people in the UK to get a mortgage in her own right, so in her own name, which she did in the 50s, because women weren't allowed to get a mortgage until about 1975 in the UK, because women unfortunately were deemed to be not financially secure, which was like, what? To be able to get a mortgage. And I couldn't believe it when I heard about it. I thought, that's ridiculous. I just assumed women could get a mortgage from the dawn of time, basically.
No.
Banks invented. No. So a bank could refuse a woman a mortgage just because they were a woman.
Yeah, my mother had told me that she remembers when she went with my grandmother one time to the bank, and my grandmother wanted to pick up more checks, and they said to her no, that they had to ask permission from my grandfather, because he was her husband, to approve of her to get more checks. And she's like, I'm the secondary person on this bank account. It's me and my husband. And they're like, unfortunately, women are not allowed to do that. They're like, we have to ask the permission of the husband.
I know. That's just like, I was just gobsmacked when I heard it. So I wrote this film and stuff, and we're now trying to raise finance for it and that, and and then hopefully it will get made soon.
That's amazing.
It's a lovely story. How she got it in the end is that she basically went to the bank nearly every week for a year. Same bank manager, same bank, and just kept asking and didn't let go. And the story has a bit of a subplot in it, which he absolutely can't stand her at first because she's very annoying and keeps coming, but then he starts to get a fondness for her. And then he's got a problem. He gives her the mortgage, she won't come back. But as long as he doesn't give her the mortgage, but then he wants to do right for her. So
yeah,
it's a nice.
This is, hopefully it gets made. Fingers crossed. Yeah, if you have the link to it, send it to me. I'll put it on the description thing and I'll repost it. I would love to support something like that. That's amazing, and that's awesome that that's your grandmother.
I know, yeah. So it's great. It's great to sort of tell these stories and things like that, and it's lovely to sort of and it's weird because I find myself writing a lot of strong women, and I think that's because I have a very formidable mother who's like that, and I think but I love writing stories for women and having lots of women in films and so forth as well. So yeah, I'd quite like to sort of keep exploring that, basically.
I like that. Yeah, definitely send that my way, and I'll definitely post it and support it. I love it. I love that concept of it. And I'm very big when it comes to grandparents. So I think that is the best way to show a love to your grandmother.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I love older people because they've got such a breadth of stories, and they've been there, they've done it. It might have been a different time, and they might have had mobile phones, etc. But they've been there, done it, seen it. Got the brochure, picked up the T-shirt and everything else, and got it signed. And they generally, they can generally see. I always think if you study the past, you can almost tell the future, and it's fascinating to predict how things shift, because they just go around in circles basically, and you can see that you go, oh, okay, this is starting to happen again. Yeah, I can notice this. And so you can start to sort of pinpoint it and see and learn from it a lot. So yeah, exactly.
So I always end my segment with always asking for advice. What type of advice would you give out to anybody who is inspired by your story or who wants to have a journey like yours? So what would be a piece of advice that you would give to anybody that would want to get into, writing, acting, motion capturing?
Everything. So I think there's the one big advice, which I think is generally you can use in life, is knock as many doors as you can, because one will eventually open. So you've just got to keep knocking, basically, and not give up. And if something doesn't work out, if something hasn't gone the way you expected, or etc., that idea or that project doesn't mean to say that it was no good. You might do exactly the same thing again, and it's a big success. So it just perhaps was in the wrong time. So, don't keep trying to constantly second guess what people want or anything else. I think it's do what you find is passionate about, that you find passionate about, and make it happen. And don't give up, basically, and aim for the sky. Aim up there and you'll get somewhere in between. Aim here and you'll get somewhere from there down. So you might as well aim up high and see where you get to. So, and it's how I got Star Wars. I wrote to George Lucas in 1993, and I got a letter back, and someone said to me, well, probably no one was writing to George Lucas because they thought he was so big that he would never answer, so therefore they wouldn't try. And my letter landed on his desk or whatever, and he read it and he sent one back. So,
do you have that framed?
No. Oh my God. I don't know what I did with it.
What?
I don't know. Yeah. I was at drama school at the time in 1993, and I got this letter, and I don't know. I probably I did put it somewhere safe, but I just can't remember where it is. So yeah, it was a typed letter, not obviously computer typed, but a proper typed letter. I remember that. And it had Lucasfilm on the top, and then signed George Lucas underneath. I was like, oh my God. So yeah.
That's such a cute story.
It's probably in a box somewhere or anything, it's probably around somewhere, but that's how I ended up in Star Wars. I wrote to him. So if you don't knock on the door, it won't open. So aim high, just go for it. And, you only get one shot at it, so you might as well. Got nothing to lose. I mean, what's the worst that happens? They turn around and go, no.
You need to find that letter. Look, even Nerd Affiliated said it. You need to find that letter.
Yeah, maybe I'll write to him again and go, remember that letter you sent me? Could you send me a duplicate?
Yeah, it would be funny if you found that letter and then made a copy of the letter, rewrote another letter as the older version of you, send it back to George Lucas, and if he writes you back again, you can do like a mini documentary, since you're a writer, called Letters to George Lucas.
Yep, exactly.
And it could be like a pen pal documentary about like how you wrote a letter to George Lucas and you never thought you were going to get one back, and you did.
Exactly. Right, I'm off. Need to type away.
Yeah, you got to make sure you type it away, though.
Really, than typing. But yes, I'll do it. Yeah.
Well, Richard, this honestly, this was so much fun. I think you're a delight. I hope one day they bring you over to the States, or hopefully, you get invited to Star Wars Celebration, something like that. But I would love to meet you. I think you're hilarious.
Thank you very much. And you too.
Thank you. You guys need to follow Richard on IG. It's rich.stride. Go follow him. Support. I will make sure I'll have Richard send me the link for his upcoming film. You guys should go ahead and support it. If you love your grandparents, this is something definitely that you want to support. I can't wait to see this play out. And hopefully you start filming for this maybe end of year, beginning of next year.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? It'd be absolutely lovely. It's all ready to go. It's just, we just got to get it over the line for finance, which is always the tricky. Is always the tricky. There's lots of fantastic stories out there. A lot don't get made, unfortunately, just because of finance, which is a shame. But hopefully we can come over. It should be good.
Look at that. Somebody started a hashtag already. Hashtag find the letter.
Find the letter. Okay, I will dig through my boxes and just see if I can find it. Yeah, it might be there somewhere, but yeah.
How funny would it be if you found it?
Yeah, that would be actually. Yeah, I'm starting to think now, going, I wonder if it's in the blue folder. So.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. And again, like I said, go on Instagram, follow Richard on there under rich.stride. And again, I'll put the link of his upcoming film. Let's try to get it started. I'll put it in the settings, and then I'll put it on my story as well. But again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Richard, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, and thank you guys for watching.
Yep. And as always, guys, as I always end my segment, may the force be with you.
Yes.
Bye.